Hey everyone, Effie here. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card using some of our new products. Let's get started. Starting off with our mini Monsteras cling stamp. You can see if you just peel off this backing, you can stick this onto your Misty or an acrylic block. But for today, I'm just going to hand stamp it. So before I do any embossing, I'm going to go ahead and dust some anti-static powder onto my 6x6 inch watercolor paper panel. And then I'm going to ink up my stamp with some Versamark ink and then stamp the beautiful Monstera's image onto the panel. And I'm using my Baron tool to help me get a really nice firm impression. Then I'm going to spoon on some white embossing powder and then heat the panel with my heat tool. And this is going to give me a lovely white embossed impression that's going to assist me in my watercoloring today. For my paper, I am using some Canson XL 140 pound cold press paper. It's really great, inexpensive watercolor paper that works really well with Ken Oliver Color Burst, which is what I'm using today. And this is my DIY palette that I created. I'm also using some water brushes or aqua brushes and acrylic block, which I'm just using as a secondary water reservoir. I'm doing some wet and wet watercoloring, so I'm wetting the paper first with some clean water using a medium tip water brush. Then with a fine tip water brush, I dipped it into some sap green color burst and then started dropping this into the Monstera images. And then I'm going to take the wider tip brush and then start blending that pigment out to the edges of the Monstera leaves. And I'm going to continue this process until I'm satisfied with the amount of color that I have down as my base layer with the sap green. If you know that you're going to create an A2 size panel or card, at this point you may want to trim down your Monstera embossed panel into 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches or whatever size your card is going to be at the end, so that you're not wasting your efforts into coloring what's going to be the negative piece after you die cut this, which I will be doing. But I wanted to show you how I colored in the entire image. So once I have the entire base layer of the sap green down, I'm going to go ahead and add some shading with some Terre Vert. And then I also decided to add some lemon yellow to the tips of my Monstera leaves. Now, if you're a plant lover or gardener, you know that yellowing of leaves is typically not a good sign for your plants. It means you're either overwatering or underwatering your plants. But I am taking some creative license to my painting today, and I wanted to add some interest with the different colors. So I went ahead and added the yellow. So just don't overthink it. We just want a little bit of variation in our panel. Now I'm just going to add some more Terre Vert to the veins of the Monsteras. The Terre Vert is a nice deep green, so I'm just adding that with a fine tip brush and then blending some of that out so that the shading is not too severe. I want it there, but I don't want the sharp line. So make sure you just start blending it out a little bit and don't cover up the sap green completely. You just want hints of that dark shading. You want some really, really dark areas and then some light areas and then a hint of yellow coming from underneath. And here I'm adding some Prussian blue to the background, and I think I only added it in the 2 spots at this point, and I just decided to call my watercolor panel done at this point. I'm going to set this aside to dry, and then I'm going to start coloring in this image from our Lush Plants set. This is a beautiful Monstera image that matches with our mini Monsteras cling background stamp. So I've gone ahead and stamped this in our Caviar Copic Friendly Hybrid ink. I did this off camera and then I also die cut it. And now I'm just going to use 3 shades of green Copic markers to color in the Monsteras. So I'm using G03 Meadow Green as my base, and then G19, I think this is Bright Parrot Green. And I'm just going to go over the veins of the Monstera and then blend it out with the Meadow Green that I used originally. After I finished coloring in this leaf, I did move on to this next leaf. However, I am going to go back and use a darker shade of green, which is the Abyss Copic marker, which you will see in just a second, to add an additional darker shade to the veins. So I really like the idea of stamping this image in our black caviar hybrid ink and then using this with our watercolored image, which was embossed in white, so that we have a really nice contrast going on. We have the white embossed outlines of the background with the dark lines of this stamped image, and it's just going to look really nice together. And you're going to see what I mean when I show you guys later when we start assembling our card, when the two pieces are juxtaposed together, and you're going to see that they really look nice together. Now, if you're a fan of the finalized card from this video today, I would suggest that you also check out our fig leaves background stamp. It's kind of similar to the many Monsteras, except the foliage shape is different. They're shaped like fig leaves. And in our Lush plants, we also have a fig leaf image. You can also use our refreshing evergreen cling background stamp with this image from our Lush plant set to create another matching card. All of our designs coordinate really well together because when I design all the sets, my goal is to make sure that you can mix and match between the different stamps so that you get the most use out of your sets. So here, this little leaf that's in the background, these are going to be really easy to color since they're small. I just go over them with the lighter Copic marker, then I add a little bit of shading with a darker marker, and then I blend it out with the lighter marker once again. And for this last leaf, you can see that my nails are different because this actually sat on my desk for a few weeks, and then I finally decided to finish coloring it and then finalize all the pieces into a finished card. So once I'm done coloring, I'm going to take the largest die from our double pierced nested dies, and I'm just going to use the largest die, and this is going to create an A2 size pierced panel with some really lovely detailing around the edges. It gives it a really nice finished look. And this is what I was talking about earlier. If you guys know you're going to create an A2 card, just cut your panel right off the bat so that you're not wasting time coloring that negative piece. Now I have this planter die cut that I created using our Plentiful planter set. This was stamped in our caviar hybrid ink and then die cut, and now I'm just going to color it in using some Copic markers. I used 2 shades of brown for the planter stand so that it will look like a nice wooden stand, and I'm just using 2 shades of brown. I used a lighter shade for the base, and then I'm just going to go ahead and add some darker shading with that darker brown marker. Then I'm going to take 3 shades of gray Copic markers, and I'm going to add some shading to the planter bowl, planter vase, or planter container, whatever you call the container that will hold your plants. So I just added shading to the base of that container with 3 shades of Copics, and then I'm going to just glue my Monstera die cut to my planter die cut. And see, you didn't have to add or go too crazy with the shading at the top of your vase or planter because it's being covered by the leaves. Now I'm going to take our A2 Slim Frames Coverplate die and die cut this using or onto an A2 size white card panel, and this is just going to create a bunch of nice slim delicate frames, and I'm using, I think it's the 3rd largest frame, and I'm going to glue that onto my watercolored background, and I did that off camera. And now I'm just going to take one of our Easy Expressions stamped die cuts, and this is going to be my sentiment. I've already gone ahead and popped up the Monsteras, and now lastly I will just add some of our dewdrop enamel dots in a visual triangle around my Monstera planter. And my card is now complete. I hope you guys enjoyed today's process video. It is a little long, so I appreciate that you guys have stuck around to watch this entire video. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because I will update it regularly. Everything is linked in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.